I have so many thoughts on my mind. It's just really, being a poet is kind of like being that person who's waiting to be asked to dance at the school dance. For many, many years it's that way. And then even after it stops being that way, you can still feel that way sometimes. And there's, you know, there's no doing this, whether you've studied Buddhism or not, there's no doing this without ego. Ego is part of the deal. And so part of the deal of being of leading something like this is ego maintenance or ego care. And so I just wanted to say to all of the students in this class and anyone else who might be here who might have taken a workshop with me before, that that's something that I take very seriously, and that I'm still that person too. So if I've done it well at all, it's because I'm still that person waiting to be asked to dance. And my dance card is still pretty full, but my ego is so enormous that I'm still waiting, you know. Is someone when's my next chance to do it? You mean you don't want me to read a poem right now? Let me get it. Yes, no, later. And now I'm just reassociating. So let's get Livia Montana up here so she can roll around.
Thanks to Chris and Toni for putting together this reading. Okay, so I had like a really hard time choosing what poems I was going to read tonight, since I knew I was going to be reading with a lot of great people, so it made me a little nervous. And I realized I finally settled on these three. And while I was looking at my poems, I realized that I was kind of thinking about a few people that I wished could be with me here. So I kind of wanted to dedicate my reading to them. And they're my dad, who passed away many years ago, and my birth mom, who is a far flight across the Atlantic. So I just realized when I was looking at my poems that they actually inspire me in ways that I'm just beginning to learn. How the pigeon becomes a poet. After all, what else is there? On a day tourists so hungrily take in sights that no crumbs ground. The skyscrapers they gulp, you've flown between, how many times now? How many wing beats have you given for those immense brotherings of steel and glass and God knows what else, never once believing they matched the nesting of your mother's womb? And where is she? She who shared her flutter, that you might stay warm long enough to long for flight. Who knew that day you flew for the final time from that flutter, it was ended? How could you know? You are a pigeon, on a hungry day a poet, but never a prophet. Best leave that to the strange unwing that skin the ground. Perhaps this is how they lost the sky, because you would give your own two wings to have hers surround. Yes, to feel that flutter surround you, yes. Yes, now that would be flight. The story of shoes. Ancestors ago, human beings began to wear shoes so that my father, 40,000 years later, could pass down the pleasure of buffing one's Sunday shoes to an inviolable shine. It took a long time for humans to get shoes right. For a while, they were so preoccupied with things like procreation and survival they forgot to put into practice the sacred details of being alive, such as having the proper shoes for every occasion. My father is high priest of order and perfection, whether it's his Sunday best or ironing out each derelict crease from its handkerchief, or how he unwaveringly cuts back each rose bush so they have no choice but push their shimmering way forward into symmetry. Yet none of these rituals match how he feels about shining shoes. My father's distress at my inability to pick up the precise technique for an unbelievable shine is particularly intense. You'd almost think the creator, one day realizing he had forgotten about his unnatural decision to prune back his creation into this odd breed that stood on 2 feet instead of 4, set down within the bones of a chosen few a shining sacrament to ever draw his attention. And their children were born with that self-same sacrament in their marrow and on, till the story gets down to me. Oh, I'd like to believe it's because I'm 10, but I suspect there's something missing from my bones that time can't remedy. Sometimes I spend hours contracting my body hard with the wish that my father and I could share that same bloodline. But I can't ignore the cutting fact that's not the way human stories work. I'm either his daughter that was adopted, or I don't come into this storyline at all. I know my choice, which is why I wipe, polish from leather, and we begin again. Always begin again. Because our ancestors, my father's and mine, had 40,000 years to get shoes right. Given. My love, if on my body you should find marks of where I've been and what I've seen, please take these as a given. Yes, you may run your touch inquiringly over them, as if these marks were twin to Braille, but take care not to read too much of your own meaning into them, for they have a world of their own to tell. And though they'll never meet the mark of perfection that's demanded, they have a beauty in their way. Yes, you can even let your touch come to rest on them, but quietly, my love, leave room to listen and listen.
So, I've come to refer to these folks as a room full of geniuses, and you shouldn't say shit that you don't mean. So I wouldn't say it if any, but these amazing conversations that we have around these poems and around trying to wrangle with what a poem is and how to create them, and then also how to move them forward into better versions of themselves. I learn so much every time, and thank you to each one of you for that. Next, we're going to hear from Darcy Scholts. Come on up, Darcy.
Stand up.
Hello. I write poetry inspired by the Pacific Northwest, the Southwest, which is my place of origin in this lifetime, and the world of myth, which is never ending. The waiting. Behind, to the east, grass grows in a riot of sound. Apple blossoms are nearly spent. Before, in the west, Oak branches wear velvet light, evoking stag times in spring. Divine crescent floats in the dusk, colorless buds of the rhododendron reaching to her. In a moment of frozen time, they regard each other. Southwest alchemy. From the still pine-soaked cider air, I hear the song of wind and bells. Soaring spirit wind distills the message of the messenger. Come to the sun, it sings and singes. Over the years, I love, still want to burn, be one. Skin to skin. My need breath stirred your awakening body into ripples of bear hide, earth pouring into itself in fields of fur. You wrapped me in eternal warm protection, or so I believed. Your teeth clicked as you whispered in my ears. I never feared your claws. Laid bare at your passing, I watched the wheel of stars and shining bear spirit hiding behind glittering eyes at the top of the frosty night. I never grew into your skin. Now I chase long-vanished warmth and suffer your absence, staring at blue bear tracks climbing up from the lightened earth, and I shiver at the invisible touch of claws upon my heart. Song at the edge. Listen a while, breathe into new silence, this day's splintered pieces, and voices that do not stop. Listen a while, exhale out of old silence, the long ago futile breaths steaming out of ancient pain. Listen a while, hear the hammer of brokenness and the heartbeat's will to live calling through winter waves. I know weight of whales ensnared by dark sea and rock. I know all the worlds are breathing, moving through me like a sigh. Listen a while to whale breath. Watch the sea foam flecked with red. Listen to the echoes of sounding beyond sound. I know the groan of stone, everlasting passion of whale in the slow rain on the wave, singing at the terrible edge. Winter. Hear the rustling of spent summer's leaf remains as the darkness falls. Snow in the meadow, wary deer seek open sky in the fading days. Whisper in the wind, from the southern lands upthrust, keen blade of new sun. One more. And then you guys can wake up again. In the hour of flood. In the hour of flood, I lifted dark wings and sang a call to blue wildness over red rock and unwood pine. I tangoed from wet branch to wet branch, seeking sun through storm, calling over the rush of water, channeled by ancient wizard rock, and dammed by a drifting, dismembered tree. Desert stream is roaring to life below, crying out, "You cannot hold me." Now spent, at peace, clamor and tears falling like sap, echoing into wet earth. I see the sun tear off her veils in silent weeping, heralding miracles of death and sand and windswept branch fallen into mold of mud. All is not lost. I will fly on, pressing west to find home again. Airborne, I call to the old ones. Their silence tells me who I am. I will fly on.
And now we have someone else from the class, but as a last minute addition to this list, but I'm glad that she's here, Sabra Larson. Come on, Sabra.
Hi. The first one is a prompt from class about remembering a place from the past. Visiting my Spanish relatives as a child. Sunnyvale was the place to return to. Always in the summer, when the heat demanded roses to bloom, and the furry caterpillars dared to cross the radiating sidewalks at their own peril. The grape arbor overhead filtered the light green, gold, and purple. Women's shrill voices rose and fell. Men's voices mumbled low in menacing ways. Cigarettes smoked to stubs, skin burned like old newspaper. My grandfather, Lolo, would dip his crooked finger into the honey and then between my lips. He called me Pajarita, his little drunkard, as the watered-down wine would trickle down my neck. The cannery would rumble in the distance, lights on day and night. Grandmother, Lala, went to the cannery long after she needed to. It was where she always went. It was the place where her people went. Lolo's last words were no money, no friends. The only safe time was when one was working, and yet, there under the arbor at the long table where the homemade wine flowed and the fresh figs split open like first sex and the cookies taste of anise and egg white, where passions burned through the eyes and all felt dangerous and alive, saffron and garlic, blood and dust, heat and sweat. My family was intimate with these forces of nature. The bull was honored as he rushed into the ring, massive and arrogant. He was torn down piece by piece, as we all are. By the end, he was blinded by weakness and yet stared at his executioner with tongue hanging out and panting. Let the sword be sharp and hit its mark squarely. The music blared and the flowers fell in the yellow earth of Sevilla. I'm going to read three poems. This is the second. Checking in at the oncology department, I met the receptionist. She is black and beautiful, larger than life, I would say, with a wide smile and big, brown, warm eyes. I'm here to see. I hesitate as I am uncertain how to pronounce his name. She saves me and said, like mashed potatoes, followed by roux, mashed roux. She draws out the last syllable. I like her immediately. I say like kangaroo. Yes, she says. I say like Australian roadkill. And she falls over her typewriter, doubled up with laughter, and then high-fives me in the air. And we are laughing so loud and big together. Yeah, like roadkill, she thunders. You're funny. You're really funny. We laugh some more, tears forming in both our eyes. And I love this woman, here in a space where life can seem way too serious. I notice the other people in the room, leaning and smiling toward us, some chuckling quietly. Yes, like roadkill, I hear her say as I go sit down. My last poem is about chronic pain, but I realize it's not just about chronic pain, it's about the pain. that we all share. There is a fairness in the distinction of sensations. All over the world, there are others in pain. I tell myself this as I roughly roll over trying to escape. I am aware that I am alive and truly grateful for another day. Must move and make friends with this pain, whose sole purpose is to awaken me. The flames that burn in my marrow, the fire that burns in my heart, the call to dance that needs to be done as the moon rises and there is a wild howling. Then the freezing stiffness of this pain, claiming my movements, sending me shuffling across the floor. Old men and women shuffle like this, a little catch in their steps, so charming in its demeanor, the signature of pain. Perhaps a youthful accident while running, rolling, and spinning through space. First comes the fire, then the freeze, with its stillness and resistance to the stillness, like the mountain on the plain as the wind wears it down to fine sand, like the glaciers in the north moving on the sea, wearing it down to fine sand in an hourglass. I dance no more, only a turn in the bed, like a huge hunk of jagged ice. I reach for the sky and stretch through the pain, reaching for the sun that melts the ice fields, sending the polar bears into the waters. The fire burns till all that is left is sand, then glass, sharp shards cut the binding pain that holds me, and then I am free.
So you get a sense of what joy I have every week. And I want to just acknowledge quickly, we have a few people that have been in that class who elected not to read. So not only did you get to see how professionals do this, you also got to see that it's okay to not read it once in a while. It's all right to not read. So thank you, Karen and Herb. And am I missing anybody else who has taken the classes with us tonight, but not as a feature here tonight? Okay, yeah, thank you both for being part of it too. And let's give them all a hand again. I thought that was really great. I didn't bother to try to figure out like which of those folks were doing a feature for the first time. It's a big deal the first time that you're asked to read. But for those of you who might have been asked to read for the first time to do this tonight, you know, may be the first of many. Yeah? And it gets a little bit easier and a little bit more fun every time too. So I hope it was a good experience for you if this was your first time. So we're going to have a few open mic readers before we take our customary break. And we have a very special reader putting the all in all ages. Welcome back, Ellis.
And my dad who'll be reading after me.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'll be reading 2 poems and then I'll have a special announcement to make.
Alright.
And then my father will read 2 poems. So I was reading 3. My first poem is my shortest one. It's called Little Snipples. I wrote it on June 15th, 2014. Little snipples with their scissors, cutting hearts quickly for Valentine's Day. But the little snipples do not know that they are early, because it is only December 9th. But little snipples must be careful, because the scissors could cut them. But least don't be eaten by dragons. My next poem is a bit long and it's about baseball. It's called The Baseball Player. It's one of my first poems ever. It was written on May 18th, 2015. The baseball player. The baseball player came up to bat in the top of the third inning. Well, he was a pretty good hitter, after all, but he didn't little. He smacked that ball into center field and he ran, running and circling past first base, running and circling past second base after that. And running from first to second. He came running from second to third. And then slid with a big plop, swish. Then the next hitter up, he hit that ball down to the shortstop and one scored. So did I. I scored. He went to second with another plop, swish, plop. On my next turn at bat, when the game was 5-7, my team was winning in the top of the 6th inning. There was one out, nobody on base. I hit a smack right to the area by the shortstop. Third left field. Third base of left field. The shortstop picked it up to throw it on second, but the throw was not in time to get me because I was fast and very concentrated at baseball, and I also loved it. Then the next batter hit a plop, single, then with my fast skills, I scored. I was happy. Well done. Wait. This is my longest poem. I wrote it today. Halfway at home and halfway at here. And this. And because I said the dates on the other one, abbreviated form, this poem was written on 4/15/16.
Close. 14. Very close.
14th, yes, I was forgetting. It's called Carry On. It's about someone running away from home. My longest. So ready? I might sing this in a bit sing-songy voice, because it's a good song to sing to. No matter what you say, I will never leave my home. But whatever your frivolous action is, I will never leave the place that I've known, one man home. These felines are all alone, but whatever the cost, your house will be placed on the Jumbotron. A frivolous city waiting down bonbons. Carry on, I will carry on. But whatever you do or say, I will not leave my home. You will carry on, I will carry on. Carry on. I was lightning struck. You were weary-eyed. I do not know what you meant when you tried to run away from home. Ran away from home. You might be waiting for me to come and get you. This is the man of our absolute enemy. After the defeat, we will play and dance, just sing along. Carry on, I will carry on. But whatever you do or say, I will not leave my home. You will carry on, I will carry on again. Last, I have a special announcement to make before my dad reads his 2 poems.
One poem.
That, no, you're doing 2. like December, January, or something like that.
We remember.
You remember the problem I read, Fly, Dragon, Sneak. I told you how it got an award. The first place award. Well, it got another award.
Nice.
Yeah.
But it lost in the next round.
Oh.
But it still got 2 awards, and I was actually the only one in my entire elementary school to manage to get him up to the 2nd level. To get up to Next, Jeffrey Kenny.
So there's the money involved.
It's only fair that I follow him. Not, somebody else having to do so. I'm just going to read one poem, contrary to his assertion.
No, remember the short one and the long one.
I know. So, this is about meditation, which is something I don't know anything about. It's called Calm is Luminous. In this self-conscious lucidness, I beg the air for forgiveness as I slowly inhale. Then in between the water drips, I optimistically wet my lips as I quickly exhale. The artist sees a leaded sky, a mountain's buried hope to fly, even with closed eyes. But I was without imagination. My only contact with creation was this grand disguise. Poisoned by my golden ego, the sun adopts a learned credo, set never upon empire. So the light sets the land ablaze, with its everlasting, enriching gaze, never more to retire. Now my calm is luminous, and soul reflective radiance, as I slowly ingest. My body consumes collectivity, stops all human activity, as I quickly digest.
And that was my part. And by the way, this book is priceless.
So we're going to have 2 more open mic readers before we take our break. And the first of those 2 is Mr. Herb Stokes. Come on up, Herb.
This poem is about bugs. Hug a bug. Every bug is a survivor, or tries to be. Many opponents wish otherwise, and are almost always larger than the bug. They need a bodyguard, but can offer nothing in exchange. So their days are numbered, like maybe 1. Bugs struggle without relief and have to constantly avoid being something's breakfast, lunch, dinner, or in between snack. I'm going for a walk. Bless you, dear. I'm going for a walk while it is still light. It's getting cool, so the little ones will scurry about to find a warm place to spend the night. They like to snuggle and perhaps make tiny love out in the open under the stars, while we are doing it behind closed doors and under covers, like sex thieves in hiding. I will watch where I step and alert the other walkers. It is the least we can do for the bugs. Thank you again.
Herb, also a previous featured reader in this series. I wanted to, before I introduce the last open mic reader for the first half, let you know about sort of what's going on up here in this area. along with Peggy's flyer about the Pros Open Mic, the new Pros Open Mic. We have a clipboard on the ledge here because we ran out of room. If you'd like to receive announcements about poetry events in Vancouver and Portland, you can give me your email address and I send out a newsletter once a month. This is National Poetry Month, so there may be 2 in April, but other than April, it's always once a month. There are various things there, including poetry postcards, which I've made, which are free to take, information about how to donate to the series so that at some point in the future we can pay our features. And this weekend, I got to meet our new Washington State Poet Laureate for the first time in Ellensburg at a great new event. It was the first time they did it, called the Inland Poetry Prowl, and it went so well I think they're probably going to make it an annual event. Anyway, he's great, and he's coming, he'll be our feature next month. So May 12th, his name is Todd Marshall. So we have flyers about that. I'm mentioning it in case any of you are not with us during the second half. But I also want you to know that in this room, this very room, the same room where we do this, that afternoon, 3 o'clock that afternoon, he'll be giving a free workshop which he's asked me to co-facilitate with him. It's free, but you need to email me and let me know that you want to come. Because of the size of the room and the amount of chairs we're going to be able to put around, limited to 28, but there are still plenty of spots. So if you think you're interested, don't tell me tonight, but send me an email and I'll put you on that list. And one of the really cool things, all Poets Laureate have a project. His project is that he's putting together a book of poems by Washington residents that he's calling Washington 129. So I've printed out, I think I have about 10 copies of the submission guidelines for that. You do have to be a Washington resident, and I think that you have quite a bit of time. I think he's taking stuff until the end of 2017, so it's probably connected to his term as Poet Laureate. But anyway, yeah, but you can get started, and of course, when he's here in May, I'm sure that he will mention the project and let people know. So along with the book that will come out of the Washington 129 project, he promises to also publish poems that he can't get into the book online. So it's an opportunity for a lot of Washington poets to get their work seen. Okay, so thank you. And part of the reason I'm doing that now is because there'll be more announcements later. So I want to spread them out a little bit. Okay, so our last open mic reader for the first half of the show, Rainy Night. Please say hello to Rainy.
Okay, I wrote notes down so I don't make a mistake. Okay. I co-host an open mic with David Hill at Barnes & Noble the 26th of this month. It's Tuesday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And our guest is Judith Barrington, and she wrote a chapbook called The Conversation. I mislocated that in my study. I couldn't find it to read from that, so I'm sorry. I decided that you deserve to hear my 2 bits about the Kentucky Derby. This is from a chapbook that I published about 4 years ago, Love Roulette. Okay. You, me, and the Kentucky Derby and the Yuma County Jail. It seems like a lifetime ago that you and I took a handicapping course at Central Washington University with field trips to Yakima Meadows. We learned how to read a racing form, whether or not to bet on bloodlines, the jockey, or the trainer. Okay, I admit that sometimes I broke rank and bet purely on a clever name. English majors are so irresistibly drawn to words. Here I am listening to the Run for the Roses, lead-in commentary with rambling thoughts of how it once was the good times for us. I look at my TV and see a muddy track. You and I know that some horses actually run better on a muddy track. Guess I wasn't one of them. Those were crazy fun times. We drug our toddler along and I bet at the window with her on my hip, while you slurped suds with your buds and inhaled those horse smells all cowboys seem to savor. The race will be quick, a quick 2 minutes, but the show is 3 hours long on a lazy Saturday afternoon. Suddenly I am wondering if you're hanging out with other inmates in the Yuma County Jail, enjoying the very same program. I imagine that you're sharing your knowledge of horses and laughing about the class in handicapping we took together so many years ago. For a moment you may even misstep. You never believed for an instant that I would eventually leave. You were shocked when I finally did. You must have felt so betrayed. You thought you knew me. You predicted me as a favorite. You didn't really know me at all. You were my long shot. When the race was run and I lost my entire bank, the deal was done. You serving time for outstanding warrants, DUIs. Finally, my bet is right. I made a decision to bail nearly 30 years ago. Here I am, and there you are, watching the Kentucky Derby televised in different states. I called it oh so long ago. Sadly, sometimes there is no gratification in being on the money. Ironically, Super Saver won. Devil May Care did not even place or show.
Thanks, Rainey. And I'm embarrassed to say that we haven't had Jude Barrington, so I hope she's on my mental list of people we need to have over here. So please show up to Barnes & Noble on April 26th and see her. And those of you who are interested in memoir, I understand she's also written memoir and written a book about writing memoirs. So you might ask her about that if you go over to say hi to Judith. So we're going to take about a 15-minute break, as we always do, so you can get more to eat and drink and meet each other and say hello, congratulate our featured readers. And what else did I want to say? One more thing. Oh, there's room on the list for people that came a little bit late that want to be on the list. I'm looking at you, Naomi. Okay? So come and see me if you'd like to read, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Thanks, everybody.